a second food democracy tour called Eat Your Heritage Part 2, and it starts today. Good news. Joining me now with more are GHC Executive Director Dr. Kimberly Keening and a new friend of ours from the Aloha State of Hawaii, Chef Mark Noguchi. Chef, thank you so much. Hafa day.
All right,
very nice to meet you. And Dr. Keelan, always a pleasure.
Thank you. Very nice to be here, as always.
Okay, so we'll start off with the most obvious question. This is, of course, Part 2. How does it differentiate from Part 1?
Well, for the first Eat Your Heritage tour, we focused on native peoples and native foods and cuisine, and we had the pleasure of meeting and then bringing to Guam Native American chef Lois Ellen Frank, as well as Chef Walter Whitewater. And they did a fabulous job introducing us to kind of the native food movement in the Southwest and what they're doing to help native peoples in terms of overall health as well as sustainability, both environmentally and culturally. And we had such a great response to what we did with the first Eat Your Heritage tour that we thought it would be really nice to do a second one, but really to focus on the Pacific and on the Pacific Islands and what we're doing here in our region to promote food sovereignty. And so we did some research and talked to some people we know in Hawaii and had the pleasure of being introduced to Mark and the work that he does, both as a chef but also as an educator and activist in terms of food sovereignty in Hawaii. And so it was just a great pleasure to have the opportunity to bring he and then Amanda Corby, who's a community organizer and the co-founder of a catering group that they work on, Pili Hawaii. And so we're just really lucky to have him here and kind of turn our efforts towards our region.
Very, very nice. Well, you know, the chef here on our island, and again, we're very happy to have you here. And interesting to see some of the parallels between, you know, your state and our island. And, you know, of course, here we identify with food so much as almost like a social utility, if you will. What parallels do you see between Hawaii and Guam?
I think that too. I mean, between like the weather, you know, today is beautiful. It reminds me of like a Hilo afternoon, but like you said, I think rural communities or island communities, our connection to food is so much more intimate. Yeah, it's because we associate it with like our heritage, our ancestry, the foods that we grew up eating are the very reasons why we have like either affinities or like aversions to things. While you have major, you know, like in America, you've got, you know, in the continent, you've got New York, LA, Chicago. You got these major food centers where people are foodies. But when you take away a large geographic location, you put them on an island, I believe that it changes. It becomes a lot more, I don't know what's the English, like you're not all, you know, comes in here, your center, your
like
association. Yeah, almost like that, yeah.
Well, Dr. Keelan was talking about food sovereignty.
Yeah.
Explain that. That's very intriguing.
I didn't expect to, you know, I cook, and I never expected to be associated with food sovereignty or like food awareness. Yeah, it's knowing where a product comes from. In today's day and age, you have like sustainability, farm to table, you know, and those are all like really cool catchphrases. But if you take all that away, those are just things that like, you know, your ancestors did, your grandparents did, my grandparents did, you know, Kim's grandparents did. It's just like the thing to do. Now, you know, people can put sustainability on a menu and charge like 4 times as much money. But you know, when grandma went and picked watercress and then, you know, picked tomatoes and then onions and put it on fish, that was sustainable, right? That was farm to table. And they didn't have a word for it. It was just come eat. And then there you have it. So, you know, to me, food, sovereignty, food, it all really is just being aware of where your food comes from.
And it's also interesting because here, you know, just living on an island, and, you know, Guam is maybe only 4 or 5 generations away, as far as my generation, those who came before us, is from people who, you know, when you would live off the land and you lived on things like corn and various types of seafood and with fruit and with vegetables and everything like that. So what are some of the ways that you promote, you know, your own background and how your heritage identifies with food?
Well, my heritage, my ancestry is Japanese, living in Hawaii, and then I grew up with, you know, all kinds of friends, Filipino, Chinese, Hawaiian. But I believe that the way that you can cook, you know, you take like a potato. Well, in Hawaii, we don't really grow a whole lot of potatoes. Oh, we got breadfruit, we got taro. So what can you do with it? And that's sort of like, that's the way I like to cook, is like making do with what I get. You know, working with Kim, we're trying to work out the menu. And she said, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I said, what do you have? And she said, we got this, this, and this. I said, okay, well, I don't know. Can I land and figure it out? And so I promised her today I'd have it I'd have the item done, because I didn't want to tell, I didn't want to tell someone from Guam what I want. I'd rather have them tell me this is what, we got this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
You want to use it? And the answer is yes.
You will set up and be very, very successful if you start a restaurant here with that approach. And trust me, well, sit tight, everybody, because we are going to be right back. We've got some more coming up on Extra, so stay tuned. More coming up about this topic when we return.